Today I want to show you my digital reading stack, how I've set up every device in order to read more and get more from the books that I read. From reading books themselves to note-taking and organizing my library, I'll show you it all here. Reading in the modern era is about making it more accessible. So many people these days do no deep reading at all, and it's about being more intentional in how you can promote reading on the different devices that are in front of you all day, every day. So let's explore what devices I use to complete my digital reading stack, starting with the Kindle. So the main device is the tried and true Kindle. I've got a 2021 Kindle Paperwhite. These devices last forever without needing to upgrade all the time. One of the main reasons that I love it, as well as the battery life and being able to read in direct sunlight. This is my go-to for any sort of outdoor reading. And the majority of the fiction books that I read are on Kindle just because of the ease of carrying multiple fiction books or multiple books in general around on a Kindle instead of having stacks of huge, 1,000-page books that I have to take with me everywhere if I'm reading something like a longer fiction piece. I sometimes like to do that, but it's much more rare that I will actually pick up a massive book like Wind and Truth and take it with me compared to having a series easily on the go on Kindle. And now I know a lot of people have been abandoning ship lately with the Amazon ecosystem and going to Kobos or Android-based e-readers or jailbreaking their Kindles, but I love the way that it functions seamlessly, especially with Readwise, which I make use of for a lot of the note taking and keeping everything organized, which we'll get to as we talk about the setup with my computer in particular and how it flows into this digital reading stack. But the Kindle for me always works just without any errors or glitches. It's been a long time since I've read on a Kobo, and I'm sure that they've improved since I last read on one. But over 10 years ago, that was when I made the switch from reading on Kobo to Kindle. And basically because the Kindle works so flawlessly for me, I haven't found a compelling enough reason to have to jailbreak it or get a different device or try something new. This is my go-to, and unsurprisingly, the main use for it in my digital reading stack is for reading books. And that's what it does as, a single tasking device at its best form so that you're not distracted by other apps or opening up and trying to multitask through many different things at one time. So I will usually have a couple of books on the go on my Kindle at any one time, usually something that's fiction, as well as a couple of nonfiction books, and I keep them very organized in a currently reading collection so that I can jump into those books and not be distracted, by the articles that I send from Readwise on there or any samples that I might download along the way that can clutter up what I'm reading currently and getting me too far ahead of myself on starting something new. So I will also send a lot of documents and newsletters from my computer using the Reader app from Readwise. Once a week, probably, I go in and I'll send those onto the Kindle so that I can read them on the e-ink device wherever I'm at and have them for offline reading. And then another thing that's important to me is if I'm reading something that is nonfiction that I'm taking a lot of notes on, I like to take those notes often in a physical copy. And then I'll also make use of my Kindle or the iPad as a way to transfer any notes and highlights from a physical copy of a book into a digital copy before I sync them over to Notion for my sort of reading library of all the highlights and everything that come from books that I really want to take note of. So then that's where the iPad comes into play. The main thing that I use an iPad for is for reading, actually, and occasionally watching the odd YouTube video. But I make use of the iPad almost identically to how I would read on the Kindle. The only differences are the apps and functionality on the iPad that makes it a little more useful when it comes to wanting to have books from different sources. My copy of the Daily Stoic is on Apple Books, and I go through that, or Meditations by Marcus Aurelius are in Apple Books. So when you have a copy of a book that you don't want to buy another copy in Amazon, it's nice that you can just go into the iPad and read them on there. Now, I don't make use of this at all in direct sunlight because the screen is not good enough, bright enough when we're in direct sunlight in order to make it a really enjoyable reading experience. But I also make use of the Reader app from Readwise a lot, and the Readwise app to sync highlights as well as review highlights from the books that I've already read. This makes it really great for reading any of those newsletters or articles that you like to stay on top of. And I really like that app and having the iPad for that functionality. And then the other main thing that I make use of an iPad for is taking book notes and being able to write out notes by hand, which helps you to consolidate those memories better. And if I'm highlighting and really taking a lot of notes on a book, I'll usually pull out the iPad as a way to jot down all of those notes so that I can sync them over easier when I'm done. The next device in the reading stack, I don't use a ton, but my phone. Having an option to read quickly accessible on your iPhone or Android phone is an important part of making this more of a daily habit if you want to do more reading and more deep reading. So I always have the Kindle app as well as Readwise to pick up those highlights and review them every day. And the Reader app, those are the main ones that I go to, as well as the Apple Books, again, for going through the Daily Stoic or short passages on meditations are the main things that I go back to over and over again on my phone. So, because I've made it more of a priority to have those reading apps front of mind on my phone, if I'm waiting to renew my passport or sitting in a doctor's office and I pull out my phone, it's something that I'm going to more likely read or just sit there and, wait patiently and meditate or just be in the present moment rather than pull up Instagram and swipe through reels or anything like that. And then I guess I read articles on the browser of my computer. So it fits into play as part of this digital reading stack. The most important aspects of using my MacBook for anything related to books, though, would be organizing the Kindle library. In a video I made on how to read more efficiently on your Kindle, I talked about how I like to organize my books into collections like the currently reading and to be read collections so that I know where I'm at with specific books. And the best way to do that is organizing them because it's so quick and efficient on your computer so that you can quickly add those books in there. And then using Calibre is another important aspect of organizing my library for any EPUBs or any books that I don't have through Amazon that I want on my Kindle. I'm able to send them over there very easily using Calibre on my computer. And then finally, I think another important part of talking about a digital reading stack is what you do with paper books in the modern era. So I've found more and more that I'm turning to reading physical copies of books when it's something that I really want to retain the information and remember the most of, and also just to slow down and appreciate reading on paper to avoid all the distractions that can come up on digital devices. Now, the main thing that fits physical books into digital books is how I transfer over any of the notes and highlights from a physical copy after I'm done reading it. So I know that you could go and type out or copy by hand every note or highlight that you've made in a book, but I tend to take a lot of highlights and notes. And because Readwise really helps you to organize and consolidate them, and I just love using that so much, I find that I will copy over every note and highlight and then think about processing it later. Some people will go through the book, review each and every highlight, and then consider, is it worth migrating over to save for later? I prefer to do that after I've already had a chance to put them all into my system, just in case I ever want to go back and review them again. It's much easier if you can scroll through your highlights in Notion or another knowledge management system like that and go in and pull out some of them that maybe you scrapped originally, but you want to revisit after all. And so I will get a physical copy as well as a digital copy later on when it's a book that's worth migrating over into my Notion dashboard for all of my highlights. And then I will just simply follow through, go to each tab that I've highlighted in the book, and then search or swipe through the pages on the digital copy and just highlight them all over, and then just sync it up with Readwise. In this way, something that used to take me several hours of copying or typing out highlights by hand can now sometimes be broken down into highlighting books and completing that process in a matter of minutes, or at most 15, 30 minutes if it's something that I've heavily highlighted. So the main point that I wanted to impart in this video is how every device has a specific purpose when it comes to reading, and finding a way to incorporate reading into your devices as one of your go-to activities, if it's important to you, is how we accomplish more reading as a hobby or as something that helps us to grow and develop in the modern era when we are so tempted by distractions everywhere we look. The Kindle is that main reading device, the single tasking perfection when it comes to an e-reader. And the iPad does a lot of the same things, but also helps me to take better notes and also have access to multiple apps where I like to do more reading. And then the other devices simply fill in the gaps to make reading more accessible at all times. And this isn't about having to upgrade to new devices or bring more devices with you everywhere you go, but to just make reading your default activity no matter which device you choose. But I do know that many people want to find that one device that can do it all. And if you're on that path, check out this video next, where I turned my iPad into an e-reader killer.